Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Kate Critchell, Democratic Services here. Welcome to the Staffing Committee. Can I take the first item on the agenda, which is the election of chairman? Do I have any nominations?
Could I propose Councillor Wharf, please?
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Is that seconded?
Yeah, I'll second that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Is there any other nominations? No. Thank you. Councillor Wharf, can you take the chair?
I will, thank you very much, and thank you to my proposer and seconder. Forgive me, I'm just going to wait for 30 seconds until 11 o'clock because
it's according to my clock, it's 11 o'clock, Chairman.
Okay, Microsoft obviously disagrees with you, that's fine. Kate, do you have any apologies for an absence, please?
No, Chairman, there are no apologies.
Thank you. Can I ask all people here, do they have any declarations of interest they wish to make at this moment in time?
None, Chair.
None. Okay. If something does crop up as a result of what something said, feel free to interrupt verbally and say, I need to make a declaration. That's no problem. Item 4 concerns the director appointments, plural, in adults and housing, to consider a report of the HR business partner, adults and public health. And we have 2 appointments that we are considering today, and my suggestion is that we start off with some background from the portfolio holder, which is Councillor Laura Miller. We then go on to the Chief Executive, Matt Prosser, to discuss it, and then members to discuss before we arrive at any form of conclusion. So if you're okay with that, I'm going to ask Councillor Laura Miller, as the portfolio holder, to start the process and give us a description for both posts, please, Laura.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll keep it quite brief. We are here to look at the appointment for Corporate Director for Operation and also for Executive Director of Housing and Adults and Housing, I think probably is the correct way to put it. These are both internal appointments, but they have been through an incredibly rigorous selection process. The interview process has been conducted very seriously in accordance with all our usual protocols. These are 2 really excellent candidates who I think will continue to bring stability and inspiration actually to our directorate at a time when we've really struggled, like I suspect all adults and housing directorates, indeed all local authorities over the last couple of years, but particularly here because of a lack of continuity in our senior leadership team. So I think that both these appointments actually are a very positive thing. I will certainly support both of their approvals. And I think this is the sensible approach for Dorset Council. It will give us stability, it will give us continuity, and it will help us look to the future in a very kind of holistic way. So I support both of these. I don't know if the Chief Executive wants to comment on a little bit further on the process that we've gone through to arrive at these kind of recommendations that we've got today, but certainly, Chair, I'm really happy that the recommendations are put, as you can see, A, B and C, that they're put to the staffing committee today, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Laura. Can I will call the Chief Executive in. Can I clarify an amendment of the report to 1.3 that Matt Prosser, the Chief Executive's name, should have been listed as part of the interview panel, which he was yesterday. Yeah. So I will, when we go to the recommendation, I would ask that minor change be added to the recommendations. The recommendations are exactly as in front of you with that slight modification that I've just made. Chief Executive, would you now like to comment?
Thank you very much indeed, Chair, and thank you for clarifying that amendment to the report. There's some unique circumstances around this, these sets of appointments, but I am delighted that we've got to this part of the process. As many of you will recall, Vivian Broadhurst came to us as a corporate director, and due to the ill health of our then executive director, Matthew Candle, acted up into the position of executive director for people, adults, health and housing. and has done an excellent job. And I'm really delighted that that we're able to confirm an extension with Vivian to carry on that leadership role. Vivian's actually been with us now for over 2 years. And time flies when you're really busy and with a global pandemic. So I'm really pleased about that. The extension of that is, of course, that then we were able to interview Steve Vivers yesterday. And as Councillor Miller has said, a very good interview given, and I think demonstrated his skills and qualities suitable for the role. And I'm hoping that members will be able to confirm the appointment of Steve Vivers in that role, giving, as Laura Miller has said, some stability to that adults and housing senior leadership team. So there will now be 3 corporate directors in post and the executive director under the leadership of Vivian Broadhurst, which I think will take the team from strength to strength at a time when we need that stability as we come out of living under the cloud of the pandemic to living with it, and dealing with supporting our most vulnerable in our society across Dorset in the best way possible. Chairman, I'm happy to take questions if any are required, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Executive. Just before I ask for questions, Paul Loach, the business partner, prepared the report. David McIntosh, the corporate director for human resources, is here. Do either of those people want to add anything to the report, or anything needs to be said before we start detailed discussions? David McIntosh.
Thank you, Chair. No, I don't think I need to add anything, but obviously happy to respond to any questions as members have the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Loach, I notice you are here. Welcome, Paul. Do you have anything to add to your brief but extremely accurate report? Thank you.
No, not at all. Just to echo everything that's been said, really. It's 2 really exciting appointments, and to bring stability to the team, which should be really, really useful from a business partner's point of view to deliver the things that we need to deliver.
Thank you very much, Paul. Members, do I have any questions from members? Do put your hand up if you can. Right, I can see something in the chat line. Sorry, Councillor Jill Taylor, please come on in.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Could I just ask one question, which is, why are they 24-month appointments and not permanent? I just don't understand the logic behind a 24-month appointment.
Thank you very much. Matt Prosser, did you want to talk about that? Because I know you discussed this at some time.
So I'm happy to address that, and it's a really good question, Councillor Taylor, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify that. Ostensibly, some of this is around personal choice, as you will remember that Vivian Broadhurst came to us for a period of time and has agreed to stay with us for a period of time. There's a subtlety to the nuance, and that's shown by the fact that we're appointing both of these in up to 24-month post. Because of the process by which Vivian came to us and was recruited as a corporate director, we have to keep that opportunity for her corporate director post to be open, so we can't recruit permanently to that. However, Steve Vivers has also come to us as an interim and is accepting that actually he would be content to take a 24-month contract at this stage. There is nothing to stop us at the end of the period to go further or change that, but I suspect that that'll be a conversation further down the line. So there's some employment issues around it and some legal issues around it as to why we're doing it. But I think 2 years at this point gives us a good period of stability for the team to get on with the work that we need to do. But if there's any more that Paul or David want to add to my explanation, I will defer to their greater knowledge.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. I can't see a hand up from either Paul or David, so I'm going to assume that means you don't have anything further to add. Can I just check with you, Councillor Taylor, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I always prefer permanent contracts, but I can see why this is being done on 24 months now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions from the other members who are here today? I can see no other questions. I'm just going to give you another minute or so, a bit like an auctioneer, because sometimes the internet can be slow and I don't want to deprive anybody of.
No questions from me, Chair. I'm going to fully support the recommendations.
Piers, I'm very grateful for that, because the trouble with internet is you can't look at people in the face quite so much. So I thank you for that. Beryl Ezard, you were at the interview yesterday. Do you mind if I just ask you? You're typing, Beryl, so I'm going to wait till I've. Yes, Beryl, come on in.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Wolf. Yes, I obviously I was only in on the interview for Steve Vevers, so but I actually it wasn't mentioned in the interview, as I recall, about this 24-month contract, and obviously with Vivian, it does mention that in here that obviously it's the because of Matthew Kendall's illness. Is anything to do with his illness, or is he still in the picture? I'm sorry to bring this up, but I wasn't aware, and I thought it was because of his illness that he would come back at some point. So I'm a bit you know, I need clarification, let's put it that way. So perhaps you can fill that in a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Matt Prosser. We have discussed this, and I don't want to confuse this meeting with the issues related to Matthew, but I think it is reasonable just to answer the question to demonstrate that Matthew is now not in the picture because of his illness. And that sounds terribly cold, but Matt Prosser, did you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Forgive me, I dropped out and came back in, but I think I came in and heard the gist of what was being asked by Councillor Azard. Matthew Kendall has now left the employment of Dorset Council. He left on ill health retirement grounds because of the nature of his cancer, and therefore Matthew will not be coming back to Dorset Council. We obviously had kept that hope alive for a long period of time, which is why. And partly due to moving through the pandemic, Vivian held that post for such a significant length of time. Usually we wouldn't have perhaps carried that on in such that period. So Matthew has now left us. We're still in contact with him. He is still receiving treatment, but he is dealing with that cancer, and therefore we needed to provide some stability, and that's what we've done for this 24-month contract with Vivian Broadhurst.
Thank you, Chief Executive. That's very helpful, and hopefully that completely answers your question, Councillor Azard.
Well, as I was only in, the interview for Steve Vevers yesterday. Yeah. I'm just, why was it not mentioned that it was a 2-year contract? I couldn't see it anywhere in the papers, and it wasn't brought up during the interview. So I'm not quite sure where we stand with that.
Okay. Matt Prosser or David McIntosh, did you want to answer that question, particularly the point about it being a personal choice? Matt Prosser.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And clearly we didn't talk about Vivian's contract in the interviews yesterday because we were interviewing Steve, and Vivian was part of that interview panel as the acting executive director. So there is both an employment issue here, and there is also a personal choice issue here. The employment issue is that in the way that we are appointing Vivian to a 24-month contract, for which she is entirely accepting of and is happy with, means that we cannot appoint for that period of time the corporate director post to any longer than a 24-month coterminous contract, which is what the report says. Having said that, Steve Vevers has been come to us an interim and is also quite comfortable with that. And wishes to spend those 2 years with us. Now, it may well be at the end of that period of time that we go through another process and they stay for a long time. They will be, they don't, but that's open to them. But that is the issue that we are delivering. But David or Paul with some HR background might want to add to that if I haven't covered the point well enough.
No, thank you, Chief Executive. And Paul Loach, as you know, recommendation C states the fixed term appointment of 24 months. Absolutely, and I think that has answered your question now, Councillor Azard, because it was a requirement that the two were coterminous, and it was discussed with the individuals, and it was a choice that both of them made. But it doesn't fetter our discretion to extend it at a later date under different circumstances. So as far as I'm concerned, we are getting the best of all worlds while meeting the general requirements of the individuals and the requirements of our contractual status.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the explanation from the Chief Executive. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming that there are no other questions from any members. Do put in the meeting chat bar RTS if you do, or raise your hand. Right, if that is the case, there are no further comments. I'm going to do two things. I'm just going to move to the recommendation, and at the risk of being pedantic, I'm going to read the recommendations out just so that everybody's quite clear. We are then going to make a vote on it, but the vote will be minded to decision as a result of our virtual meeting. And if we take that minded decision, following that, the Chief Executive will announce his decision, taking into account our decision. Hopefully that is clear. The recommendation is A, to approve an extension of Vivian Broadhurst fixed term contract for the further period of up to 24 months with some mutual flexibility. This request relates to her substantive role of Corporate Director of Adult Care. B, to approve Vivian Broadhurst continued acting up to the role of Executive Director, Adults and Housing for a further period of up to 24 months with some mutual flexibility. And C, to approve the fixed term appointment of Steve Vevers as Corporate Director of Adult Care for a period of up to 24 months with some mutual flexibility. And D, an amendment to the original report, which is that Matt Prosser, Chief Executive name, should have been listed as part of the interview panel. Can I just check that I have mentioned everything correctly with Kate Critchell or Matt Prosser? And if I don't see any action, I assume I have. Can I therefore ask for a proposer for that, please?
I'm happy to propose.
Councillor Taylor, I'm very grateful for that proposer. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Laura Miller. Due to the difficulties of operating an internet, I'm going to ask all those in favour, but I'm going to do it negatively. Can anybody who is against unmute and say, I do not vote for this? Right, silence is assent. You have all voted in favour. Certainly I have, Laura has, and Jill has. So thank you very much for that. So we've now taken our minded to decision, which I think is quite clear. Following that, I'd like to hand over to the Chief Executive, who will announce his decision in the light of our decision. Those two decisions are entirely separate, but I hand over to the Chief Executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And for those members of the public who might be watching this, and just to understand, due to the nature of the fact we're operating a virtual meeting, that's why we've taken this way about. And the members have made a minded to decision, and now further to that minded to decision, I, under my delegated powers, will make the following decision. A, to approve an extension of Vivian Broadhurst's fixed term contract for a further period of up to 24 months with some mutual flexibility. This request relates to her substantive role of Corporate Director, Adult Care. B, to approve Vivian Broadhurst's continued acting up role of Executive Director, Adults and Housing for a period of up to 24 months with some mutual flexibility. And C, to approve the fixed term appointment of Steve Vevers to the role of Corporate Director of Adult Care for a period of up to 24 months, also with some mutual flexibility. Thank you very much indeed, members.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. That is the end of item 5. I will just check that nobody has any outstanding items that I've missed. If not, I move on to item 6, which is urgent items. There is no urgent business to report. I move on to item 7, exempt business. There is no exempt business to report. Can I just check with Kate Critchell that I have completed the meeting and it is okay to close it? Kate?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Chairman. That's fine.
Thank you. Therefore, I close the meeting at Microsoft time 11:17. I thank you everybody for attending, including any members of the public. Can I ask that Megan stops recording, and can you let us know when you have stopped recording?
Thank you, Chair.